All right, we're going live here, and I want to talk about what is the most obvious topic right now. And if you're paying attention on Twitter, you're going to notice that the calls for impeachment are getting louder. And the reason they're getting louder is that Robert Mueller today just made things even more complicated, even muddier than they were before. It's really a kind of a shame that this wasn't a cut and dry type of, it just didn't go down the way I thought it was going to go down. I really thought that Mueller would just say, look, there's no evidence that there was collusion. The obstruction stuff is kind of part of our investigative process, and therefore there's you're going to find things during that portion of it, but it doesn't rise to the level of impeachment. Well, that's not what occurs. What occurred instead was that people believe that Donald Trump did do enough to warrant some type of investigation, and then obviously now we're looking at the possibility of impeachment. Now, why is impeachment the dumbest thing on planet Earth? Why is it just the dumbest idea? Well, it's dumb because it just is. It's not going to go anywhere. If it goes, look, it can go through the House, and then it's going to get to the Senate. And here's my feelings about if it gets to the Senate. If it gets to the Senate, then there will be a call, the more constitutional conservative types to say, hey, abandon your party and then do the right thing. You know what I mean? In other words, get away from what your party is saying. Don't be partisan. This is bigger. And look, I think there's a lot of smoke and no fire. The more you read this stuff, the more you see a guy who is getting paranoid, who is tired of being investigated. It's almost as if you're yelling and screaming in the car and you've got road rage, but you don't crash into anybody. You don't cause any accidents or do any damage to anyone else's vehicle, and you make it home safely and no harm, no foul kind of a thing. That's what I think was happening here. I think that Trump was getting more and more paranoid, and he started to ask people to, hey, can we maybe speed this along? And I just don't see that there's enough there to actually get Donald Trump impeached on. Now, it's what I believe, though, is that the media is so controlling of this narrative. They've controlled it from the very beginning. They controlled it even before he was sworn in. You had recounts. You had, if you remember, the electors were pressured to switch their electoral votes. You had crazy people screaming outside the actual swearing-in ceremony. I mean, this has been a circus from the moment Donald Trump rode the escalator down at Trump Tower. Now, I am becoming more and more embarrassed for my country, because the media has certainly contributed to the circus-like atmosphere, and they've made things worse rather than better. The fact that they continue to just drumbeat this all day long, it takes us away from the real problems. Now, Bernie Sanders has gone out there and retweeted a New York Times article basically saying that he would be in favor of an inquiry into impeachment. So I don't know. Bernie, I guess, has to do this. He's got to play, he's got two groups of constituents, basically. He's got, I think, look at the situation and say, what about healthcare? What about education? What about the environment? Go down the list, like issues. Those are the people that I truly believe in, is that the people who are, I don't know, I guess the people who understand that the issues are more important to actually getting things done and changing the direction of the country. That this is all going to be just tribal. It's, okay, we had the Trump tribal stuff, and then we're going to get what? The Biden tribal stuff, or you basically just, again, like I always say, you're rearranging the deck chairs on a boat that is taking on water. I know, Trump has been touting, the jobs numbers and so forth. If there is a constitutional crisis where impeachment is actually a thing, you're going to see the economy start to slide. Okay. And the Democrats are fine with that because they're running around saying that, yeah, people have 2 or 3 jobs and so forth. There are some good economic numbers, and it's hard to argue with that. Tulsi Gabbard didn't argue with that when she went on with Cavuto. What she's trying to say is there are a lot of people that have jobs now, but they're still not making ends meet. Their real income has been stagnant for a very long time, and nobody seems to really be highlighting that. Most everybody is just kind of like, it's not a big deal. It's as long as, the numbers look good. And look, presidents, they take credit when things are good and they try to minimize the blame when things are going wrong. Joe Biden is running on the fact that when Obama left office, there was some mild improvement, economically speaking, as he was walking out the door. A lot of people say when Trump won the election, the economy started to turn. And of course, Obama is still in the White House at that time up until January. So he can take credit for, the beginning of the recovery, so to speak. Only took 8 years, but, you can say that. You can say that. I don't know if Tulsi Gabbard is going to actually have to say, and look, I'm going to be honest. If she comes out and says, I'm in favor of this inquiry, Robert Mueller left so much on the table that I think at this point we need to look into it. I wouldn't call out Tulsi for that. There's too much political pressure now from all these different factions that are looking for, they're just looking for blood in the water. And they don't realize, as somebody very wise said over on Twitter a little while ago, careful what you wish for. You might get what you really want, which is Mike Pence. Okay, let me say those 2 words again. I'll get close. Mike Pence. All right. Now, not only is Mike Pence very chummy with the deep state, he's not very well liked in the LGBT community. Just a couple of things there. He's advocated for some. I don't want to go into the whole, what is it called, the correction therapy or something like that. And they really have held him accountable for that, because I think those are still his views. I know Tulsi Gabbard's dad supposedly was for all this stuff, and they're always giving Tulsi a hard time about it, and it wasn't even her viewpoint. But Pence is a card-carrying member of the warmongering deep state, He, Pompeo, Bolton, these are all chummy individuals. Trump, I believe, is a bit of a thorn in the side of the deep state. And this is one of the reasons why I think both the left and the right, I think now you may see a convergence of a collapse, if you will, of this resistance to the idea of impeachment. Pelosi says everything's on the table, although she doesn't say we're beginning inquiry. Now, you know it will go through the House of Representatives quickly. You've got guys like Justin Amash. I think that's how you say his name. He's in for it. He's a Republican. He's a libertarian, Tea Party-leaning Republican. And he does make the point I made when I started this channel, is that where did all the Tea Party people go? They used to want less government spending. And I tell you what, it's really a sad and shocking kind of thing that we had all of this good stuff that was out there. I mean, in the sense that we were looking into these things. We were looking into reducing government spending, reducing government waste, and so forth. Now we don't do any of that stuff. We just we have to keep spending on larger military budgets. We have to keep making the war machine bigger, and it's kind of tragic that we keep doing that. I don't understand how we all of a sudden just forgot. We just forgot about these things. They don't matter. Trump's the president, so it doesn't matter anymore. We don't have to talk about how the national debt continues to soar and the $22 trillion bucks, and we know the Pentagon misplaced like 21 trillion through some kind of crazy accounting error, and we can't talk about that anymore. Why is that? What's that all about? So there may be some libertarian conservative type people who will align themselves with this tribal leftist resolve to remove Trump. And those two factions, and then everything collapses, because the people who say, like the Bernie-crats and the Tulsi-crats, who are more concerned with issues and actually getting things done, those people will say, yeah, I guess, yeah, let's just do it. Just go, hurry up and get it over with. A lot of us will shout and say we get Pence, and with Pence, we really don't get a change in policy. In fact, Pence, economically speaking, I think would sign on for everything that Trump is doing. I think Pence, though, is for things like NAFTA. I think Pence would be for all of these anti-worker type treaties that Trump, I think, is for. You know what I mean? I think Trump is for at least getting rid of some of these things, whereas I know Pence would be full steam ahead, and he would have a lot of support both on the left and the right. And I know this is all hypothetical stuff here with Mike Pence being sworn in as the president. I just wonder, does the media and the tribal left, do they really want Mike Pence being sworn in before the next election? And of course, Mike would have to get up there and tell us why he likes all people. You know what I mean? He really would have to go up there and try to smooth out his image. I mean, he's seriously a flawed presidential candidate, and hence that's why he didn't go very far there. But he is made to order for the FBI, the CIA, all the people who are on the inside. Pence, I think, would be a natural fit for those people. And even with his conservative views on social issues, I think he would be embraced by a larger portion of the media. They would hammer him on the social issues, and he would do a mea culpa and acquiesce and say he's sorry. And you'd have Mike Pence versus Joe Biden, Wow, what a stellar presidential contest that would be. Hopefully it's going to be Bernie or Tulsi. But imagine if we get something like that. I mean, Trump, for all of Trump's faults, Trump did throw a bomb into the system. And at least he got people aware who weren't aware before. I can't say that I feel sorry for the guy because he wasn't really prepared to be the president of the United States. And the things I have issues with Trump on: corruption, cronyism, nepotism, his son-in-law. If you wanted to get Donald Trump, but here's the problem: his son-in-law is so pro-Israel and everything that nobody wants to touch that. But where there's smoke, and you might want to talk to Lee Stranahan about those types of issues, because I think that's where your problems are, your real problems, not this fake collusion stuff and then the paranoia surrounding the fake collusion. And look, these guys, here's the other thing too, if these guys take Trump out, if they're successful at taking Trump out based on a lie, and then his reaction to the lie, because that's really what this is. I don't like Trump's reaction to the fact that we are doing an anal exam on him and everybody in his administration and his family. After a while, you'd get pretty tired of that too. And I'm not sticking up for Trump. I'm saying that you're removing somebody, or you're trying to remove somebody on their reaction to a lie or a hoax, which makes this a possibility now going forward, no matter who becomes president. Think of that. Now, do I think Tulsi Gabbard will react to this? She's going to be asked about it, because no matter where she goes, no matter what media outlet she decides to avail herself to, she gets asked that question. So, Tulsi, do you believe in impeachment? And do you believe in this investigation and the details? And I know you say you don't think there was any collusion. And I would say yes, because the report that came back said there was no collusion. But now they're going to ask her, so do you think there was obstruction? And do you think you have enough votes? They're going to just start assuming they've got the votes in the House. Now, another thing, that this would be surprising, that the media would actually want to end their gravy train. Think of this. They'd have it'd be like the O.J. Simpson thing. They'd have this huge run-up, to the impeachment itself, and then it happens, and then we have Mike Pence. And they don't have the tweets anymore, unless Trump keeps tweeting. Imagine Trump not being president and throwing bombs at these people. He might do that. I mean, they might have to. It's just going to be crazy. It could go on for years, regardless if Trump is the president or not. It would just go on for years and years, and this adversarial relationship, which helps with ratings. What's Donald Trump saying today? He's not the president anymore. He shouldn't be talking. And they would just broadcast it all over the place, and just for ratings. But it's weird. Are they really going to? Even Jeff Zucker from CNN said, Trump hasn't been good for the country, but he's been great for CNN. We'll see if these guys are willing to actually promote this to a point where it happens, because the media, the MIC, the usual suspects, deep state, they're all really calling the shots. Mueller kind of proves himself to be one of these guys who's just another deep state hack. He's not doing an investigation. He's kind of, again, this isn't a neutral investigation, but some will say, oh yeah, he was fair and impartial and so forth. And, he was a villain a few weeks ago, and now he's a hero after today. He must have been on a phone call with James Comey or something. And now everything is perfect now. He's gotten up to speed. So, thanks to everyone who got on this little video here. I tend to just ramble a bit, so I apologize for that. This is kind of a new sport for me, going live and so forth. But I want to just finish and say, I think Tulsi Gabbard might actually have to say that, yeah, she's for some sort of inquiry at this point. And the only reason I would probably have her say that, and I would still have her qualify by saying, but we also need to be able to walk and chew gum at the same time, meaning that we should be able to advocate for the American people, pass legislation, continue to move things forward. If you're going to remove Trump, you've got to still do the business of the people. And I think most of us would probably be okay with that answer. I know some of the Bernie people aren't too happy with his retweeting the New York Times article about impeachment, but it is the topic du jour, and people are talking about it. Impeachment would probably take several months, at least. I forget how long it took with Bill Clinton. Obviously they've got to vote. They do arguments just like with anything else. It's a big trial. It goes, well, first the House is just a vote, and then it goes to the Senate. In the Senate, it becomes more of like a trial where senators get up and then they basically make lawyerly speeches. And some of them, are just like, hey, I don't like him. And the others they go through the report and they try to nitpick and find the intent of what Trump was doing. And they just try to prove their case like a lawyer. And as you know, the Senate is filled with lawyers. And this would be carried wall to wall, CNN, MSNBC. This would be a boon. Even Fox, I think, would jump in on it. Meanwhile, we still need to hear from Bernie and Tulsi about their policies and so forth. The cheerleading, Elizabeth Warren will probably go up in the polls because she's been an advocate for this and she's been pushing for this. And I don't trust Elizabeth Warren. I think she's a tribalist. Some people think she's progressive. I just don't know. I don't know. I'm not a big fan of hers. I like Tulsi and a little bit of Bernie, but Bernie will kind of go in a direction that the media pushes him, and that shows me that he's not a strong leader the way Tulsi Gabbard is. And everybody always cites, they go, well, Bernie should have stood up to the DNC and he folded like a cheap tent and so forth. That, I think, is kind of true. I mean, you can't deny it. I mean, his fans were crying. I mean, they were literally crying. If you look at this footage back from the DNC convention, and that can't happen again, to any political party. This is why we need a third way. And this whole circus, it'd be great to have a party somewhere like, look, we're not going to take part in the circus that is about to play itself out. You could have some other candidate somewhere talking issues, but nobody, the problem is the tribalism is like a sport and nobody would listen. Everybody would be too busy grabbing their popcorn and sitting down in front of the TV, watching the soap opera unfold and really not understanding that this is our country. This is our democracy. And if these people are successful at getting Trump out over a hoax, if they get Trump out over a hoax, then it's game over for the way politics works. And then we've got bigger problems. We're basically a third world banana republic at that point. We are. And I'm not saying this because I like Trump at this point. I just know that these aren't the things that the founders, I believe, were talking about when they were referring to high crimes and misdemeanors. Okay, this isn't treason. Being upset that you're being investigated, it's not treason. Okay, it's a normal human response. And it's just that when you're a president and you're under this large of a microscope every single day, it's hard to avoid. And Trump is not good at managing his emotions, at least behind the scenes, and even in front of the camera. Again, my gut tells me that he probably never thought he was going to be president. Let's just hope that the country itself doesn't collapse, the economy doesn't collapse, and all these things happen if the impeachment process begins. I think Tulsi Gabbard understands and knows that there are deep wounds and divisions. Hey, when Nixon left, I mean, that was a story for, I don't want to say decades, but it was in the news for a long time. Books were written about it. Movies were made about it. It wasn't good. It's a scar on the entire American system of the way we do things. And now everything is just, it's become really depressing because I've woken to the fact that issues are more important than tribal politics. That's why I'm doing this channel. That's why I believe in what I'm doing. And I don't know if people feel that way, though. I don't feel that the American people in general understand that we're just playing a game back and forth. It's like tennis. The left volleys, the right volleys, and nobody gets anything done, and nobody really moves the ball. And using the football analogy, it's just back and forth, back and forth. And this will be more back and forth, and it will be great drama to play out. And I'm sure, my independent channel and other channels will probably benefit if this actually happens, because we can at least come at this from a different perspective, looking at how the media and the government, again, wasting our time, and how this is doing damage to our democracy, and how issues are being ignored and problems aren't being solved or fixed. And I don't know. In the long run, we've got to ask for better. We've got to demand for better. All right, so I've been on this live stream for a long time. I want to thank those that came over to watch. Again, I think Tulsi is probably going to have to make a statement on this stuff, and she's probably going to have to sort of tacitly go along with it. It's going to come to a point where if you're in the House, you're going to have to get on board. I mean, you got Nancy Pelosi, and she's starting to, I guess, make some indication that she's probably going to start an inquiry and then the proceedings. And the vote, that can happen really fast. It's when it gets over to the Senate. Now, the thing about the Senate, if you're unfamiliar with impeachment, which I'm sure most everybody who watches this channel knows, that in order for the president to get physically removed, would actually come and say, come on, Mr. President, you're coming with us. You need a conviction in the Senate. If you don't have the votes for conviction in the Senate, then like Bill Clinton, because Bill Clinton was impeached, but he wasn't convicted. A lot of the same kind of scenario is playing out here. There's a good majority in the Senate, but I'm thinking with Trump, who there is a faction of never Trump in the Republican side of the Senate that would likely align, I would say 6 or 7 senators, I think, could be persuaded to move over. It's a long shot. Keep in mind, Trump seems to dodge a lot of stuff and just keep moving. It would be interesting to see if he just avoids everything on this, but I think we might be looking at this, which is just a big drain and drag on our country, and it's a shame that we can't get anything constructive done, but we can keep focusing on Donald Trump. And it's sad. The other thing I'm worried about is backlash from Trump supporters, because Trump supporters, call them what you want to call them, they're loyal. They're very loyal, and they believed this was something different, and they believe in Trump, and they believe that the media is corrupt, and they believe a lot of things that are true, but they kind of overlook some of the things that are true that they don't want to talk about. But those people are going to go ballistic, and I just don't want to be around for that. I don't want to see our country go through that. And I think that's the heart of Tulsi Gabbard, is she doesn't want to see the country go through that. And that's the normal political response, or the normal human response. The normal political response is, yeah, let's get him. We got him now. Let's get him. Okay, and how does that help you and I? How does that help you and me have a better life, pay off student loan debt? My wife has thousands of dollars in student loan debt, and the interest on the loan is insane. It's just insane. So there you go. I mean, I can speak from my actual family circumstance that I would like to see a Tulsi Gabbard or a Bernie Sanders or possibly a Green Party person, if they can get their act together and talk economic populism. I don't care about long shots anymore. I just care about what's best for America, what's best for the average citizen, the 99% who are left behind most of the time. And that's it. So, all right, I'm done. Thanks for being on the live stream. I don't have one of those super chat buttons because I think you have to get to a certain level of support. In other words, I think you need like 10,000 supporters to get super chat, because I'd love to do that and read the messages. But you can support me over on Patreon. On the homepage, when you land on this page, there's a little Patreon logo. That's also affiliated with my music channel, which I run simultaneously, but the money all goes to me. If you do $1 a month, $2 a month, it's good, because viewership on that channel is down, and I'm being demonetized. And as you know, I post the videos. The one I did yesterday is still demonetized. It's still in yellow status, and I've lost over, I don't know, 1,200 views without any ad revenue. That's one video, and it does hurt because these videos tend to be more topical. So, 6 months from now, nobody's going to be watching a video about what Tulsi Gabbard said back in May. They'll be moving on to the newest videos and so forth. But anyway, I'm thankful for those of you who've come over, and I appreciate you taking the time to watch these videos and this channel. You can also find me over on Twitter at Gabbard Rocks, and also a great website that I failed to mention from time to time, PresidentTulsiGabbard.org, where there's just a ton of information about Tulsi. If you haven't given to her campaign $1, give $1. She needs unique donors. All right, I've given 2 or 3 times. I don't have a lot of dough rolling in here, but I believe in Tulsi Gabbard. She is our best shot at changing the political paradigm, at least in the DNC. Once this whole primary thing is over, you're looking at the leader, not the leader, but a leader in a new political paradigm, movement, whatever you want to call it. And I'll do my part. Let's just put it that way. I'll do my part, because the political system is broken, and this whole impeachment thing, this proves that our political system is broken, that you can do a hoax for 2 years. You can talk about Russians. You can destabilize relationships between 2 world superpowers. You can start a new Cold War. You can start a new Cold War and a new arms race based on a hoax. And just keep doing it, because, hey, who needs safety and security and peace, right? That's just tragic. This is what the media is doing, and our politicians, and I got nothing. You know what I mean? I don't even know. You can't wrap your brain around it. And then they call people like myself and like Nico House, we're all conspiracy theorists, because we don't buy in to their narrative. We're not signing on for it. What's that all about? Because we don't ask questions. We need to just shut up. Shut up and don't ask questions. Sit in the corner. We'll tell you what to think. And then, once we've told you what to think, you better think it, or we're going to call you a conspiracy theorist. Okay. That's not too Orwellian. All right. I'm done. I need to go back and read 1984 again. I read it in high school or college, one of the two, and I watched the movie, which the movie is, the book is 10 times better, but it's groupthink and thought crimes and conspiracy theories. I'll see you soon, everybody. Thanks for tuning in.